So on to the last of our CCC beers, brewed with Omnipollo. For those of you who've tasted many of our beers before, you'll know we've done a couple of beers with these guys over the years. Have a great relationship going back with them to our first year, actually, back in 2013. This beer in the series highlights coffee. This beer is called Charm, and primarily I think everyone will agree, you put this into your glass and you start swirling it around. The look and the visuals of that swirl, well, yeah, that's all I need to say. So we've got a great relationship with Omnipollo. It goes back to 2013, our first year, where we brewed Neckham with them, and Life's a Peach. Both of those beers flowing out of a home brewers competition that we did with them. So they felt like a really good team to come together with to brew this project where we really wanted to push ourselves, and boy, did they push us.
Yeah, so right from the start, the idea was to really push things. Omnipollo came in with a real big idea of a beer starting at 40 Plato, which is really big from
huge,
like any beer, I think. So we like the idea of it, and the finishing Plato for this beer is around about the Plato that you'd start a double IPA or even some stout sets. So, you know, it was going to be a real big, thick beer. A lot of challenges to that, which we were really keen to take on. So yeah, we went with so we ended up doing a 20-hour boil, which really concentrated those sugars. We lost about a third of the volume of our kettle in the boil. It was, again, I stuck up, stayed overnight and watched the boil, watched it basically shrinking and thickening up. It became harder and harder to take readings from because the beer just got really thick. Really interesting to taste through the boil as well. The caramel flavours really started to develop.
Hey everyone, so it's 4 in the morning. Boil's going really well. I've just taken a sample, which I'll try show you what it looks like. Again, the volume in the kettle's dropped even more. Getting really viscous.
And then yeah, it was a real trouble to ferment something like this because yeast doesn't like that environment. It's just really sweet and puts a lot of osmotic pressure on the yeast. So we got a bit of advice from some people that work with Omnipollo and with Omnipollo on how to ferment these beers, and yeah, managed to get it going. And yeah, it's just such a thick beer and so viscous that it just hasn't changed. It almost traps the carbon dioxide in the beer during fermentation, but it's not dissolved in it.
Right.
It's been really interesting to watch this beer develop. So the coffee, one of the things I know Omnipollo do are really think about how they source their ingredients, and so I wanted to speak to them about what coffee they would use, where they'd get it from, and we managed to get the same supplier that they've used before for coffee, which is a blend of Indian, Tanzanian and Brazilian coffee.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you're trying to push yourself and your beers, and when you're trying to be extreme, there's no point in being extreme if you're not going to produce something that you're proud about as a result, and how those flavours come together. And yeah, this is big.
Really big.
This is extreme. I mean, there's just no two ways about it. This is the sort of thing where you'll probably find an article in the Sun about in a year's time where they're talking, oh, I couldn't drink a pint of this. You know, this is that kind of beer. This is a great way of expressing the extremes of it. And I think the great aspect to it is I think it all blends together really well. You want to go back for more. You want to keep trying that next sip, because it's just pulls you in, which I think I love it.
Yeah, and I think it's going to create a really good experience for whoever drinks it. They're going to really find this beer interesting. Like you say, every sip is going to take them down a different route, and there's real interesting characters in there. The sugar complex in this is incredibly complex, with different caramel sugars, and then just the thickness and the mouthfeel and how it slides over your tongue is going to be a real experience for someone to drink.
Yeah, so definitely worth it.
Yeah, 100%.
So I think all we've done is talk about viscous, swirling beers, but I mean, this absolutely tops it, doesn't it? I think it's just, again, it's just so rich. All that massive motor oil, and the aroma is just pure coffee, isn't it?
Yeah, it's coffee. I think it's got texture of like a guava juice I used to drink. There's like a bit of, I think the sugars all add different aspects to it. And then it's just like the aromas, all coffee. There's a little bit of marzipan in there. There's it's just a great experience for someone to have.
Yeah. Well, let's dive in. I think we've said it all, and it is just a full-on experience, isn't it?
Yeah, and it just coats them up and sticks around.
I like the way, considering it is such that there's so much residual sugar in the beer. I like the roast aspect and the bitterness that's there, but none of it's overpowering. Works well.
I think another thing interesting about this beer is it's actually got the highest amount of roast barley. I think it's up to 8% in the beer, and out of all the beers that we've done, I don't think it's the roastiest in flavour. I think the sweetness balances that off, and I think all these beers have a little play between those two things, and if you look at it, the recipe on paper, it doesn't translate exactly the same. And knowing all those little nuances of how the flavours are going to play is important with what we're doing.
One of the great things about working with Omnipollo is their artwork is hugely synonymous with the brewery itself. And we're really pleased that Carl put together this unique illustration for this collab for their can. We love it.